Luxury minivans are making a comeback. Volvo sells one in China, Mercedes just rolled out theirs, and Lexus is working on a six-wheeled one. In Bangladesh, recon minivans never went out of fashion. On the budget side, you got the Noah, and if you got 1 crore to spare, you get the Alphard. Now, what if I told you you can get the Alphard Luxury for Noah money, and it will save you fuel? Enter the Wuling Darion. Now, before we talk more about this amazing bundle of value, let's talk about the brand itself. Wuling is a Chinese brand that is famous for cramming as much feature in a car for as little money as possible. In Bangladesh, they rolled in with a 3-car knockout. The cheapest of which is the Cortege, which is just 25 lakh. This is, however, the top shelf offering, and at mid-40, it's still cheaper than many of the cheap crossovers you can buy, but its feature list will blow them out of the water. Starting with the sculpted nose, you got the Wuling wing badge, a single-piece grille, LED headlamps with DRL, and a chrome font splitter. To me, it almost looks like Wuling told its designers to make me a single-piece bumper without making it look ugly. And honestly, they succeeded. In the sea of angry minivans, this looks almost stately. Now, under this single-piece grille and this rather heavy hood sits a 1.5-liter engine making around 105 and 130 Nm of torque. However, that's not the full story. It's a PHEV. It's connected to a single electric motor that adds another additional 195 horsepower and 230 Nm of torque, which is frankly a scary number to have on a car like this. Other than that, you got the 12 volt to start the car, a whole host of coolant reservoirs, and the windshield washer fluid inlet when you need to fill it up. As we move to the side, these vents are actually functional and they do send air to the front disc brakes. The wheels are 17-inch, lifting off the car to a regular paved road level. The ORVMs are floating with cameras as always. The doors are powered and tinted for maximum privacy. Opening this panel reveals the Type 2 charging port connected to a 20.5 kWh battery, giving this car a pure range of 125 kilometers. However, if you combine this with the 52-liter fuel tank on the other side, you get a combined range of over 1,000, which means if you do a Dhaka to Coxbazar trip and back with this, you'll probably spend less fuel on this car than you would in a single meal in one of the highway lanes. As I move to the back, ignore the Cortege badge, I'm presented with one of the most normal looking rear end I've seen in a while. At the bottom, there are the backup lights, no exhaust that's tucked underneath, parking sensors, power tailgate, very conventional looking tail lights, Wuling badge, wiper, and a small spoilerish thing holding the brake lamp. Opening the rear hatch reveals standard minivan affair. You got a fire extinguisher, patch kit, and a home charger, which is ironically supposed to be used when you're away from home. As for home, Wuling Bangladesh will provide you with a 7.4 kWh charger with free installation, which can fill up the battery in 3.5 hours. Beside that, you got a light over here, a baggage hook over here, and if you need extra luggage space, you need to sacrifice the third row occupant. By doing this, then this. With that said, let's see how these seats are when you use them properly. Now, getting to the third row is relatively easy thanks to this captain seats. More on those in a bit. But after you pull yourself in, it's not a bad place to be. However, your legroom depends on how generous the captain seat occupants are feeling. Here, you got a relatively comfortable seat that you can actually recline, assuming I can figure this one out. Yeah, there we go. Beside that, you get a bit of a storage space over here, your own AC vent, and for some reason, Isofix hangers for a child seat. With that said, let's try out the main attraction of this car, the captain's seat. Now, as you extricate yourself from this third row and finally move to the main attraction of this car, this captain's seat, excuse me while I close this, you realize why most people buy this car. These seats are ventilated, powered, and goes back to a ridiculous degree to the point you'll have a hard time reaching for that cup holder and the fan controls. However, if you have a long enough USB port, you can probably still charge your phone. Beside that, you get your own map light, AC vent, and As I adjust this seat, double tinted windows for complete privacy. Storage include this pouch, a little cubbyhole here, and a 6-speaker audio system for your music needs. Let's move to the driving seats. Now, the driving position of the Darion is the same Chinese minimalism, we've gotten used to it, but that doesn't mean it isn't packed with feature. The seat is powered, not ventilated though, and at the front you get a 8.8-inch center gauge cluster and a 12.8-inch screen that pretty much controls everything, but you do get a few buttons for your AC and temperature, which is nice. If you don't want to deal with surfing the screen, it does have a voice command, which is "Hello Wuling."
I'm listening.
Roll down all the windows.
Opening window.
As you can see, it works pretty well, and you can always activate it with the button if you don't want to yell that command. One interesting feature about this voice command is that it knows who's talking. So let's say if my camera guy is sitting on this chair set to roll down the window, it will do so on the left side. However, if I told it to, it will do so on the right. However, if you don't want to deal with the voice command or any of its feature, you can always use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay by just plugging in your phone. But as far as I remember, right, it also supports wireless. The screen itself is pretty responsive. You get a bunch of wallpapers, audio control, vehicle controls, 360-degree camera, and of course your AC vents, which is, if you're not used to it, a bit tricky to pull up. Underneath that you got the AC vents, some buttons for the temperature and the hazard light, a 50-watt wireless charger, a bit of a storage here, a bit of a storage here, 2-cup holder. And pulling this up reveals a center console that's big enough to hold a half-liter water bottle, well, 4 half-liter water bottle, a couple of USB and a 12-volt plug. The audio controls are right here. As you can see, it can give you radio, Bluetooth music, which is your phone, and USB. Beside the center console, you get a glove compartment with a first aid kit, which is this thing, and a small storage tray down here to store a handbag or something like that. Finally, let's talk about material. I love this brown leatherite and this leather steering wheel. It's minimalist, but it's also perfectly adequate for a car in this budget and of this fashion. Up top, you get electronic sunroof. Unfortunately, only the front row passengers get it. Buttons to control it, buttons to control the power sliding doors, and a couple of map lights you can activate on touch, and some of the biggest vanity mirror I've ever seen. Look at the size of them. I think Wuling meant them to double as a way to keep an eye on the back seats, or else they shouldn't be this wide. Which honestly, given there's no panoramic reflector up here, is an acceptable workaround. With all that said, let's drive the car. Alright, I don't know when you are watching this video, but this is the second time in a week I've encountered 2 idiosyncrasies in a Chinese vehicle. The first is the start-stop situation. You can turn this car off. There is an emergency off button that kills all the systems, but again, it's supposed to be for emergency. Another interesting feature is the gear lever, which is again in the steering stalk. Now, it makes more sense here since it's a minivan compared to the Ion V, but still, it's weird that it happened twice in a week. With that said, let's drive this. At the end of the day, the Darion is a minivan, and if you are gentle with the throttle, it drives like one. However, it's also a PHEV with an electric motor that delivers around 200 and something Newton meters, which in real life means if you put it on EV max mode and let me clean this incline and press down the throttle, it moves far quicker than any minivan should. Good God, that was scary. And combine that with the fact that the suspension is designed mostly for comfort, then, you know, like a sports car, it feels like you're driving a speedboat when you're bolting through any kind of paved road at all. And I don't recommend you do that, especially if you're with your family. This is a minivan, for God's sake, not a sports car. If you're with your family, drive it how you're supposed to, because while the motor is capable, the tires and the suspension, they are not designed for speed, they're designed for comfort. That said, thankfully, if you do get a bit carried away, the car does come with level 2 driver assistance. That means collision control, automatic brakes, lane keep assist, all that good stuff, which will keep your spirited driving in check if you keep them on. However, in the event things goes really bad, there is an army of airbag to protect you and your loved ones. All of that sounds good, but I'm sure you have a obvious question. This car is Chinese and is from a brand that is known for its low prices. How can you trust the quality? Well, Rancon has you covered on that front. This car comes with 5-year 100,000 kilometer warranty along with 6 free services, so you are good for half a decade if you drive reasonably. Finally, the price. At the time we're shooting this video, Wuling haven't launched this car officially, but we have been told the price will be somewhere between 40 to 50 lakh. For that, you're getting a fully loaded minivan that is way quicker than it should be, and for a price that is lower than half the crossovers I've test driven in the last year. If that interests you, give them a call, book a test drive, and then make your own choices. That will be all for today. Thank you.